afternoon, and thank you for watching Denver 7 News. I'm Jessica Porter. Right now, Governor Polis is hosting a remote question and answer session with reporters about the state's COVID-19 response. Let's listen in.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you for tuning in for this completely online press conference. I want to thank all of you for joining us. We're all staying safe. We're exercising social distancing. When we do come together, we wear masks like we're asking all Coloradans to do. And today we're able to make sure that we give the press the opportunity and the public the opportunity to hear firsthand from me, the governor, about what's going on in Colorado and recent updates. First, let's start with some updates. We're at 15,284 cases. As a reminder, that's the number of confirmed cases. It's likely to be several times that in terms of people who've actually had the virus or even who might be asymptomatic. About 25 to 50% or more asymptomatic might not even know that they have it. Tragically, we're at 777 deaths today. And our thoughts go out and our condolences to the families and the loved ones of all those who this virus has taken from us in Colorado, nationally and internationally. Today is really another milestone in the Safer at Home order. May 1st, retail and personal services like salons and dog groomers and personal training and stores can begin to open their doors as long as they follow the very clear and specific hygiene and social distancing guidelines. Those are at coloradosaferathome.com by the category of the store or the operation. I would also point out that there are some jurisdictions in the Denver metro area that are beginning that in 1 week, May 8th instead of May 1st. But in other parts of the state, that is beginning today. And this coming Monday, many of us will be back to work. We office workers can be back at less than 50% capacity. So if there were 100 people in the workplace before COVID started, up to 50 can go in. Now, 50 is not the goal. The goal is to see if a company can make by with 30 or 40 going in. That's great. And there's companies that can have almost everybody telecommute. They should. And I hope they provide those opportunities. But there's other types of work that need to have people in the workplace to do it. And up to half are able to go back in a reasonably safe way Monday. That allows for more social distancing at those positions of work. Also allows us to make sure that those employees that are over 65, that might have pre-existing conditions, can continue to stay home and telecommute. This virus is far more deadly for those who are over 65 or have pre-existing conditions. We've gone over all the precautions to maintain social distancing in a number of previous press conferences. If you want to learn more about what to expect, visit coloradosaferathome.com. For all of those details. Certainly, if you run a business, small business, manage a business, that's important. But even if you're a potential customer and you just want to know what to expect if you choose to go to a store, that those expectations should be there. The new Safer at Home phase really is really the goal is dealing with life in a sustainable way. How can we live with virus without causing the spikes that led to the emergency situation of almost 2 months ago here and internationally and nationally? We know that a lot of Coloradans have experienced a lot of difficulties because of this. And just last night, we took a number of different issues on orders, which I'm going to go over briefly. And of course, we'll be happy to answer any questions. But we started the response to the virus a long time ago, March 20th. We required that Department of Regulatory Agencies work to reduce foreclosures. And we also renewed that. So no more, just as there were no evictions in April, there also won't be any evictions in May. And to be clear, there could be some evictions if they're based on public safety considerations, if they were predating COVID. But the courts are not yet back to normal functions. They're doing the necessary criminal work they need to. For civil processes around evictions, those will begin in June. They're not occurring in April. They're not occurring in May. We were even more clear with our announcement that I signed the executive order last night. We have enough to deal with in this. Many landlords and tenants, for the tenants that lost their income and can't pay, they're working on amortizing those charges against the rest of the lease. You know, if you have 2 more years on your lease, you put April and May into each monthly payment for 2 years. Other tenants haven't lost any income. They're getting UI. They got the $1,200. They're up to date on their rent, as they should be, and they won't be facing a eviction. So that's even better for the many folks who are able to have UI or the federal package and able to pay their rent that way. I also wanted to provide an update on the steps that the Department of Labor is taking around processing unemployment, because I know that's been a big frustration they are dealing with. And I want to thank Joe Burrell and the team over there. You know, exponentially more applications than they ever thought. They got the website up. That was one of the initial problems. The department added an additional call center with 80 agents. I realize those wait times are still long, but they've added 80 agents, 70 temporary workers. It's getting better. They also added a chatbot that you can work with online, all at coloradoui.gov. A new file a claim callback request. So rather than wait on hold, you just file a claim and they'll call you back as soon as they can. So you just don't have to wait there. And we're also holding virtual town halls in English and Spanish at the Department of Labor to make sure everybody can get their applications in. And I want to thank the team for doing that. I also want to thank the folks at 211 Colorado's free information hotline. We know that a lot of Coloradans are searching for information during this crisis, and we're giving information about emergency assistance and housing, transportation, many other services at 211. It's really critical that people stay within the law here during the social distancing phase, during Safer at Home, follow the laws at our workplaces, follow the laws in our own to keep people safe and make sure that we can continue to move in the right direction from a health perspective, from a psychological perspective, and from an economic perspective. And I know that this is hard on a lot of people, not just economically, not just from a health perspective, but it's also just hard from a behavioral health, from a psychological perspective. People are staying at home a lot more, and people are continuing to do that. You're still safer at home. For people over 65, they're staying at home except when they absolutely need to go out. And May 1st is also two things. It's Mental Health Awareness Month and also Animal Welfare Month. And so we have proclamations recognizing both of those. With regard to Animal Welfare Month, we've made great progress, and many of you have adopted at record levels from our shelters across the state. I want to thank you. And there's always animals in need of a home, as well as making sure that we're treating all of our wildlife with the respect that it deserves, especially this season. Just staying away, keeping your distance, not only from fellow people, but also from bears and from elk and from deer. That's very important. If you are recreating in the great outdoors near your home and you're encountering Colorado's amazing wild animals, let them be. It's dangerous for you and dangerous for them if you get too close. This is also Mental Health Awareness Month, and we know that it's tough because worrying about loved ones, grieving for loved ones, praying for the sick, praying you don't get sick yourselves, all without the physical proximity, the fellowship, the social experience that we normally have that comes along with feeling those things is a difficult task for all of us, May and beyond. And I want to make sure I highlight that Colorado Crisis Services provides free, confidential, professional, immediate support for anybody who needs help with mental health, substance abuse issues. You can call 1-844-495-TALK, or just text the word TALK to 38255. And you get to speak to a trained professional. Any Coloradan that needs help can call 844-495-TALK to make sure that you have somebody to talk to at the other end. Please do that if you're worried. This is a time not for fear, not for anxiety, but for justified caution that we're all acting with. And I know that we all trust one another to do what's best to protect ourselves and our loved ones. We also, as you know, have a behavioral health task force that I put in place to reinvent our behavioral health system and make it more efficient and effective and patient-centered. The task force is charged with providing recommendations on overhauling behavioral health. And those recommendations were supposed to be released in June, but given the crisis, we're extending that deadline, and we're also asking them to take on COVID-19 specific behavioral health issues and how that changes the in-person nature of many services, moving to telemedicine and consulting where possible. We're going to likely have that report out by September will be the goal, with the additional mandate, September, October. The behavioral task force is ongoing, great, multi-stakeholder, bipartisan representatives from across the state. And behavioral health is now more important than ever before. You know, a lot of the national news, which I watch, you watch, focuses on the health side, justly so, focuses on the economic side, justly so. But I wish more of it focused on the behavioral health and psychological side and the difficulties that we all face, whether you're staying at home and isolated and cut off, or whether you're engaged in limited activity and just worried about getting the virus. These are all valid concerns that Coloradans have, that Americans have, that people across the world have, and we want to make sure that they're addressed to the extent we can. I also want to make sure that people are not delaying their regular trips to the doctor. That means for your kids, if you have a well check, checkups with your kids. They should go in, get their regular vaccinations, all those things. So, two, if you have symptoms like chest pains or dizziness that you would have called the hospital in January, February, please call them. We don't want to see a continued increase in cardiac arrest and other causes of death just because people are afraid of COVID-19. That's very important. Get your kids in for checkups if you feel signs of illness. Our hospitals are there for you. They're safe. I was at Denver Health the other day, visiting someone I knew there. They took your temperature when you go in. You wear a mask the whole time. It's a safe environment. If you need healthcare services not related to COVID-19, please seek those out. And finally, I wanted to give a quick update on Help Colorado Now. They just issued the second round of grants, got $3.6 million out the door to 166 groups that are helping those most impacted on the ground. And I want to thank everybody who's donated at helpcoloradonow.org. You can check that out and donate $5 or $10 or sign up to volunteer. Thanks to your generosity, we've raised over $17 million at helpcoloradonow.org, helping displaced workers, children in low-income households, older Coloradans who lost their income, tribal governments, survivors of domestic abuse, Black, Latino, Asian communities, immigrants, refugees, really many of those who are disproportionately impacted. Your help is really making an enormous difference. I also want to take a moment to acknowledge an outstanding effort by two great Colorado institutions to help fight the COVID-19 virus. 5 weeks ago, we asked universities in the state to reach out to industry to see what they could do around the emergency supply of ventilators in case we needed them. Colorado State University partnered with Woodward in the Loveland area and Fort Collins area, and they created a working prototype. 3 weeks later, they were running clinical trials with the help of folks at Anschutz Medical School, the ventilators before the FDA for approval. And I'm very proud to say that they were selected by the U.S. Army for a $100,000 grant to move ahead with research and development. What a great example of Colorado innovation and ingenuity. I wish I could highlight every one of those great examples of so many folks who have stepped up, making masks, making hand sanitizer, some of the companies that were distillers. Everybody is just doing everything they can to help Colorado get through this, save lives, and restore normalcy as soon as possible. I also want to remind everybody that while it's great to enjoy our beautiful outdoors, do it in a way that is consistent with social distancing. Wear masks if you're on trails where you're passing other people. I mean, if you're in a field or your backyard or somewhere where without people, you don't need a mask. But if it's a trail situation, you need to wear a mask and take several steps off the trail to allow people to pass. We want to make sure that we're as safe as possible during this time, and that you're also recreating near your home to the extent you can. We suggest within 10 miles. Our mountain communities are not yet ready to receive the visitors. And we get a lot of questions about that. People say, well, why? And we've at least, while our state parks are one of the few state park systems that have stayed open through this entire crisis, we're not having camping at those state parks right now. We'll decide on May 4th is the new date for deciding what happens with those. But it's not because camping or being outdoors is dangerous. It's not, as long as you respect social distancing. It's really about honoring those in our mountain communities and other affected areas. And it's those other activities that come along with it, right? You're not just going somewhere and camping. You are visiting gas stations and stores and being in that community. And those communities need to be ready. Some of them have been hard hit. We're going to honor that. And when they're ready, of course, our Front Range residents will return. Many of those mountain communities are already very welcoming of second homeowners. Please check with those mountain communities if they're ready and updated with regard to your visitation. But for now, try to recreate within 10 miles of your home. And as I said, it's a small price to pay. You might not be able to go to your favorite park, your second favorite park, go to your municipal park, go to your fourth favorite park. Stay socially distant, stay safe, and of course, stay home whenever you can during this crisis. I also want to remind folks at stayathome.colorado.gov. Stayathome.colorado.gov is our free resources for Colorado residents who are trying to stay at home. Everybody over 65 and folks who might have been exposed to somebody with COVID-19 who need to quarantine for 14 days. Sling TV is giving Coloradans free access to preview more than 3,000 hours of premium content for free without any subscription. That's a lot of hours. And you can find out information about that and many other great offerings to help encourage you to stay at home at stayathomeco.colorado.gov. Free resources to help you and your family get through this. There's a lot of families that are able to telecommute and don't have to go to work, and they want to stay at home. Again, resources for the family to be able to do that, especially with school still happening, but with different hours online ending in the next few weeks. There's a new segment that I'm going to do. It's a special shout out for highlight some of the amazing work that Coloradans are doing to get through this crisis. I'm going to highlight folks every time I talk to give us hope about the great what's really best in us that these crises bring out. Today's shout out goes to the staff and residents at Colorado's Veterans Community Living Centers across our state. The Veterans Living Centers are managed by the State Department of Human Services. A lot of people don't know that. They're not run by Department of Veterans. They're run by Department of Human Services. We're taking every precaution to keep our military heroes and veterans safe, in good spirits. I want to ask our veterans in these centers to keep up the good work by wearing masks, right? Wearing masks. And I know it's tough. We're going to get through this. One day, this will be behind us. And we want to make sure that you, our older military heroes, are with us for many years to come. So let's wear our masks, ensure proper hygiene and distancing, and we're going to beat this virus together in doing that. So I want to thank everybody for rising to the occasion in Colorado, doing the work that's needed to enter this sustainable phase, to show that we as a state, we as a people are able to get through this together. With that, we'll open it up for questions.
Hi, good afternoon, Governor. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Katie.
Okay, thank you for your time. So my quick question is about evictions. The halt on evictions has been extended, but we're hearing from landlords that tenants who haven't been affected by COVID are actually taking advantage of the situation, withholding rent because they know they can't be evicted. Will this eviction extension require any proof of financial impact or anything to protect landlords from being taken advantage of?
So some of the landlords are themselves getting assistance through the CARES Act. They're required to then notify their renters of the additional rights that comes along with those landlords in federally subsidized housing, getting that. Those protections go way beyond what the state is doing. The state is simply recognizing that, again, our courts are not at full capacity. They did not process evictions other than emergency evictions for community danger reasons in April. It'll be the same in May. Obviously, all renters need to pay their rent. So it's just a question of when. And if they can't pay it in April or May, they certainly need to pay it in June. Those courts will soon be back at full capacity. But for April and May, the courts are focused on the criminal matters that need to be attended to and can't be delayed. Civil matters like evictions, like foreclosures, are slightly delayed. And we'll resume in June. Let me just say one more thing on that. What many landlords and tenants are doing and working this out, for the tenants who have been really hard hit, they're saying, look, we'll amortize your April and May payments across the duration of your lease, 12 months, 24 months. So we'll take those April, May payments, increase your rent payments from June on. Those are the kinds of deals that people are reaching. We encourage tenants and landlords to reach out with one another, make those deals. But just as there were no evictions in April, the state is also not ready to resume them in May as well. Next question.
Vicente, you're on the line.
Vicente? If he's not there, we can go to the next.
Yeah, hi, Governor. This is Vinny Dalchute. I said, can you hear me, sir?
I can. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, hi, Governor. This is Vinny Dalchute. I said Bloomberg News in Denver. You issued an executive order on the budget. There's going to be belt tightening. Beyond that, will Colorado consider tapping the Federal Reserve's new lending facility for states and local governments? And the Fed has expanded this facility now to assist the smaller cities and counties. Will that be of help across Colorado? Thank you very much, sir.
Yeah, we hope so. Our budget director, Lauren Larson, is looking into what tapping that facility would look like for Colorado, how it can help. We're also grateful for the CARES Act and the subsequent work that the National Congress is doing around aids to states. But yes, we're very grateful for that new guidance around tapping into lower interest capacity. And we're exploring all those opportunities on behalf of Colorado taxpayers.
Governor, this is Nathaniel Miner with Colorado Public Radio. Going off the last question, have you given any thought to raising new revenue, whether it's using your position as governor to campaign for a tax increase or anything of that nature to try to alleviate some of the coming budget cuts?
I haven't heard about anything in that regard. This would obviously be the wrong time to raise taxes in a recession. Actually, we have been very focused on extending tax deadlines, giving small businesses, individuals, property owners more time to pay their taxes. One of the executive orders that I recently signed expanded those deadlines. Again, it's like that the rent situation. It doesn't mean you owe your taxes, but we're giving people more time to pay. We've done that on property tax, on income tax, on sales tax, on severance tax. It's for two reasons. One is cash flow reasons to help our businesses and individuals. The second is many people can't really contact or get their accountant to come in or write up their taxes. So we are extending those deadlines to give Coloradans more time to pay their taxes, and we look forward to working to do that.
Hi, Governor. This is Crystal Story with Cardione, Colorado Springs. Thanks you for taking our question. Yesterday, El Paso County Deputy Health Director Dr. Leon Kelly told commissioners, we can open the businesses tomorrow, open them all. It does not matter if people are too scared to go to the restaurants, if they're too scared to go to those shops. Our job is to prove we're ready. El Paso County is ready to go. Do you have any reaction to that? And is it possible that El Paso County, one of our largest counties in the state, is ready to go and open back up?
Well, I mean, stores across our state are opening today, including in El Paso County. Was there something else that he was talking about besides stores?
He talked about stores and restaurants altogether. And I think the sentiment behind some of his comments were we may be opening up more than we already are here on May 1st. Do you think opening up more than some of the limited capacity is possible in some counties, even some larger counties like El Paso?
Yeah, I hope they're ready. We have a process where counties that have a handle on it and are able to do the testing and the tracing and early warning system. There's two counties that have already received that ability, Mesa County, Eagle County. Mesa County is going to be moving forward with opening restaurants ahead of the state. We hope that statewide they're able to open in the not too distant future, but we won't know until we see the data from this phase, at least a few weeks. And certainly we've not yet received any requests from El Paso County about any different timeline, but they are opening stores in El Paso County today and salons. And so a lot of what he's talking about is open. Really, the only piece that isn't are those social businesses like nightclubs and restaurants. And, those are difficult. Countries across the world are all figuring out the best way to do that in a safe way. And we look forward to working with the El Paso County commissioners and the mayor, Mayor Suthers, to see if there's a way El Paso County can get there ahead of the other parts of the state.
Hi, Governor. Marshall Zellinger at 9 News. You told Colorado Public Radio that you kept an order of coronavirus tests quiet so they wouldn't be confiscated by the feds. Maryland's Republican governor has tests being held by the National Guard so they can't be seized by the feds. Are Colorado's tests and our PPEs being securely held? And what does it say about an environment where you have to be making purchases that will help us in secret?
Well, I'll let others comment on what that says about our environment, that these purchases have to be done in secret. But we don't tell anybody until they're here on the ground in Colorado. And we have no reason to believe the feds would take any kind of seizure and action once they're here. We're just worried about them cutting them off at the manufacturer during the supply chain or during customs. And it's so of course we want to make sure that we don't reduce risk to Coloradans by not allowing items that we're buying to be taken out from under us. So we're happy to tell folks once the stuff is here, once it's inventoried, once it's safe, exactly what we've got. But in the meantime, we don't want to give put Coloradans at a disadvantage by allowing our own federal government or other states to purchase things that Colorado had already purchased. So I think that's very important that we work together as a team. We certainly see the federal government as a partner. We see other states with a good cooperative arrangement, but at that same time, this is also a global free-for-all. And just as we wouldn't, we want to keep our supply chain advances confidential, and we'll let people know as soon as items arrive what we've got. But it puts Colorado at additional risk if we were to talk about what was in the pipeline and what was on the way and what was being purchased before it got here.
Hi, Governor Jesse at the Colorado Sun. Your administration's budget letter last night avoided state employee furloughs and layoffs through June. But does that remain a possibility for the next fiscal year and other cuts? And I also wanted to ask what changed regarding your decision to outlaw evictions and foreclosures, which you earlier said you didn't have the ability to do that.
So on the first one, The budget letter was the sequestration for this current year, which is appropriate. There's belt tightening across the entire economy. Families are tightening their belt. Businesses are tightening the belt. It's appropriate. Your state and local governments also tightening the belt. So that was for the next few months just to get through this year. And yes, we were able to do it without furloughs. We hope that businesses across our state are able to do it without laying people off. We realize that some have, but many aren't. And we celebrate our Colorado businesses that were able to avoid furloughs or layoffs during this very difficult period. And I'm proud that the state was among those that, at least for these few months, has been able to avoid furloughs and layoffs. But really, we're looking at how we can sustain these cost savings into a new year in a way that makes sense. But for this year, that's what we were able to do. What was your second question, Jesse?
Sorry, I was muted. Can you talk a little bit about why you now have the ability to
Right, yeah.
evictions? And you said earlier that you
Yeah, so the lawyers were able to give us slightly stronger language, but there were no evictions in April and there won't be any in May. It's really the same policy, but the lawyers were able to figure out slightly stronger language that we could put in there just to make sure that if there's any wayward court systems in the state, that it puts a further barrier against evictions. But we have not seen any evictions that came during April. I've said several times, if there were any, let us know. There have been none reported to us. The only ones that are occurring are ones that were before the COVID crisis. So there's people that might not have paid their rent in January and February. They're still being evicted. But at least for April and May, non-payment will not lead to an eviction. The courts are prioritizing their necessary criminal work, and they're generally delaying their civil work until June to the extent they can. And we're very much in alignment with the courts on and law enforcement on those prioritizations.
Hey, Governor, Sam Tabachnik with the Denver Post. I wanted to ask about some of the cuts that we saw in last night's order come at prisons and some of these community facilities that are outside. And you talked about Mental Health Awareness Month, and there have been some of the cuts, it seems, that will affect some services, drug rehab, mental health services for some of these folks. Can you talk a little bit about that and how folks can continue with their services that they desperately need?
Yeah, we feel that even with these sequestration cuts, we're able to keep up the state services that we need to support the mental health of our residents. The cutting around the edges was needed to balance the budget. And the good news is I think we can continue to meet the basic needs of the residents of the state of Colorado. And we know it's frustrating, and these are important programs. Cutting is never fun. It's no fun if you're a Colorado family that lost an income in a two-income household and knows that for the next couple of years you might have to downgrade your cable package and not go out as much and cancel your family trips. That's no fun. It's also no fun for the state because these are vital, critical, life-saving services. We're going to be able to continue to provide them, but there's belt tightening across the entire economy, and the state's no exception to that.
Hey, Governor, this is John Herrick with the Colorado Independent. I want to ask you another question about the budget cuts. The majority of them, about $183 million, are cuts to Medicaid, which help low-income people and people with disabilities. What concerns do you have about cutting Medicaid funding here in Colorado during a pandemic?
So a lot of that is aligned to actual savings that we're recognizing. What's happening, and whether it's good or bad, it's probably some of both across both the private insurers and Medicaid, is people are going in less for non-COVID-19 related issues. And I started out this call by talking about if you have symptoms, you need to go in. Don't continue to delay your child's well check forever. But the truth is, people are worried about contracting COVID-19. They are less likely to go in. And that means they're less likely to go in for frivolous reasons that add costs. We don't like those. They're also less likely to go in for serious reasons. We wish that they would go in, but we are seeing some of those savings, and we're really making sure that we can use those in a way across Medicaid and private payers to keep rates low and save the state money.
Governor John Frank here from the Sun. Last night you extended the deadline for unaffiliated candidates to collect signatures. Will you do the same for ballot measures?
We're looking at all. I take very seriously the right of voters to petition to put something on the ballot. I've been involved with initiatives in the past. There's some I support and some I oppose. It has nothing to do with what I like and don't like. What it has to do with is the right of the voters of Colorado to be able to put initiatives on the ballot. And we're just as, of course, any unaffiliated voter, the largest group in the state, has a right to be on the ballot to run against a Democrat, run against a Republican. They can do that. We're working in a variety of ways to find out ways to honor our state constitution and the rights of the citizens of Colorado to place things on the ballot.
Hello, Governor. This is Antonio Olivero, sports editor with the Summit Daily News in Frisco. I have two questions specific to ski areas, one backward-looking, one forward-looking. So first, kind of backward-looking, what were the reasons that led the state to extend the ski area closure effective last night to May 22nd? And what would the state have to see by May 22nd to permit ski areas to reopen? And then I do have one more follow-up on that after you answer that. Thank you.
Yeah, I had a call with many of our ski areas just the other day, and we really laid out the criteria that would allow them to open in June or even Memorial Day weekend. First of all, there's only a few that'll have enough snow to do it. So criteria number one, they have to have the snow to be able to open. But in terms of the health criteria, there's really three. One is we need to be in a statewide situation where we're at a point where we have the data in from this new safer at home phase, and it allows for that additional loosening around the ski resorts and safely allow people back on the slopes. Number two, they're going to need to implement the best practices for hygiene and safety, just like every other industry is, just like many in the ski industry were starting to do before they had to close due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And then finally, we want to make sure that the host counties are on board, because it's not just about people going to the slopes and skiing. They're also in stores, they're walking through the streets, they're stopping at gas stations. And a lot of our mountain counties have been through a lot. We want to make sure our mountain counties are open to receiving people from across Colorado. And since we can't really differentiate even from other states as well. So those are the criteria. They'll be getting additional guidance towards the end of May about whether Memorial Day or June opening is possible. I'd certainly love it to be possible. I think there's no one in Colorado who doesn't want it to be possible, but we simply won't know until we have more data. Final question, please.
Yeah, and then just one more follow-up to that. Have you been considering like a cap on number of skiers at the ski area, a cap on numbers on a chairlift? Some of the ski areas, I think people are chatting about like even tea time type things, where you can get on a chair at a certain time. Thoughts on requiring skiers to wear face cover, that kind of thing?
Yeah, all those things are being talked about. Just like with the reopening of stores and salons, there's very specific safety guidance. There'll be safety guidance around skiing. But keep in mind, it's not so much the exposure on the slopes. That's a real thing, but if you keep related parties to a chairlift, that can be minimized. It's really about whether our communities that are host to the ski areas are really ready to receive visitors and tourism. And that's up to them, not up to me. We're going to honor that if they're ready and the health situation allows it. We're ready. But if they're not ready, then we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they're going to be there next year and be ready. So with that, last question, please. Final question.
One moment, we were just having some technical difficulties.
Hi, Governor. It's Brandon in Fox 21 with this in the Springs. How's it going?
Good, Brandon.
So California is taking further restrictions to close public places. Arkansas is going to open restaurants and gyms. How do you analyze the data from those states to influence your own decisions here in Colorado? And also, does the patchwork of those regulations, whether at a county level or a state level, hurt the progress against the disease?
Yeah, thank you. We are thankfully not in this alone as Colorado. So we're really excited to learn from places like Denmark that chose to open their schools before their businesses, from other states in our own country that have a similar trajectory in the virus, to really learn the exact impacts of these different measures around the virus. So it's an incredibly important time of global learning. I review all the scientific papers that, every evening that are put out there. We have a great team that's looking at all those too. But we are grateful that Colorado is not in this alone, and we're learning in a very aggressive way from the exact practices and their impact that are being put in place in other states. Colorado is a big, diverse state. There's no reason to think that the health situation will be the same in Grand Junction and Denver and Lamar. It's not. And so it's completely appropriate that we work with local officials to have a flexible approach to keeping people safe. Communities have to show they have the hospital capacity. Their county commissioners need to be on board, their county health department. And then we're excited to work with them to find ways that they can go a little bit further in terms of creating a sustainable route forward that allows people to earn a living and keeps people safe. I want to thank all of you. This is the big milestone, May 1st, in the Safer at Home period. stores are open. Many are still doing curbside delivery, still preferred if you can. If you're going in, please wear a mask. The employees are all wearing masks. A number of municipalities require the customers to wear masks. But even if you're in an area that doesn't require you to wear a mask, it's the least you can do to help keep those workers safe and also help keep yourself and your family safe when you're shopping and exposed to others. So thank you for being able to join us. If you weren't able to ask your question, you can email it to Shelby or Connor. We will be getting that back to you with the answers very shortly, and we will likely see you in person for another update on Sunday or Monday. Thank you so much.
You've been watching Governor Jared Polis answer questions about the state's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The governor commented on his executive order banning evictions and his extension of that through the month of May. He also discussed his decision to slash hundreds of millions of dollars in state spending. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jessica Porter, and I hope you can join me later today for Denver 7 News at 4.